Hi everyone, I'm Allie with Potomac Beads, and in today's tutorial we're going to use the BowTrio bead in an unusual way to make a captured pendant. If you want to gather your materials that were listed first, join me in making the Oz pendant. So to begin the Oz pendant, what we're going to be doing is using some .006 wildfire beading thread, and I have a stop bead on that, just a gold bead that's not included in my project. And I'm going way out of the box using some bright colors. We're using the rose red Navette, which is almost like a magenta color, along with some purple iris 2x3 Rondelles, some 11/0s in the galvanized silver, and then the in the 11/0 seed beads. In the rounded ones, we're using the Toho Color Trends Metallic Pink, and it is bright. So going out of the box a little bit, I have on my stop bead, and I'm going to start adding on my bow beads. Going through the bow bead, I'm going to go through the bow bead with my needle going towards the left when the bowl is facing towards the left. Going through that bottom hole, I want you to add 1 11, and then I want you to add 9 Delicas. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Once you have that 9 Delicas on, go ahead and put another 11/0 seed bead on, and let those 2 seed beads and the Delicas drop down towards the bow bead. From there, add your next bow bead. When you add the next bow bead, you want them to cup in towards one another. So we're going to go through it with the needle going towards the left, but the bowl this time is facing towards the right. That's going to cup those 2 in together. And right now what we're doing is we're building the base for it to sit on. Going up then the sides of the bow beads, we're going to decorate a little bit as we go in the sides, but we're actually just going to put the thread there for now. You won't see it since I'm using gray thread, and I'm actually using that gray wildfire thread. Even with other threads, you're not going to see it because you're going to end up completely covering it with the beads. I'm snaking up basically from one hole to the next of that BowTrio bead. That's going to put me on the outside of the BowTrio bead, and what I'm going to do is decorate the outside of that BowTrio. To decorate the outside of the BowTrio, I want you to use 1 11, and the reason we're using 11s next to the holes of the BowTrio is because they're really big holes because it's metal. Go ahead and put another bead on, a Delica this time. Then we're going to add our crystal, another Delica, another 11, and then we're going to repeat the Delica, crystal, Delica, 11. So you got that. Basically you're doing a pattern of it repeating. Let that drop down next to your needle, and then we're going to go back through that BowTrio to the other side. And because I am going to be putting basically all the weight of this crystal on those back seed beads, I am going to reinforce going through all of those seed beads one more time. So I'm going back through all 9 of these guys till I get to the other side. Coming out the other side then, I'm going to go through the BowTrio. And coming out here, I'm going to do the same pattern of the other side. 11, Delica, crystal, Delica, 11, Delica, crystal, Delica, and one more 11. From there, we're going to go to the top of the BowTrio on this side, and that's going to decorate that outer side of our pendant. Here then, from the outer exterior, you can see we're back at the top. Here at the top, we're going to make our little section for our crystal to sit inside again. So to sit inside again, that crystal, it is going to be 1 11, 9 Delicas, got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. One more 11. Put that down next to the beads here, and we're going to go through that BowTrio on the opposite side. And that's going to create our base now for our bead to actually kind of set in. You can see that it's a little bit bigger than it needs to be because what's going to happen is the BowTrios are actually going to start cupping up to make that pendant look a little bit three-dimensional. That three-dimensional look then is what we're going to use to achieve kind of that pendant design. We're now going to come down the side of that BowTrio, and I'm just going to kind of put it this way here so we can see it a little bit better. I want you to go through the 11 Delica, Crystal, and Delica. Coming out then through that 11-0, I'm going to put one more Delica bead on, skip the 11-0, and go through the other beads. What that's going to do is just decorate. It's just there for decoration. A little bit on the side, having that 11-0 kind of sit positioned above the 11. You can see it just kind of sits there coating along the side. Going through then the bow bead, I'm going to come out through the top there of the bow bead, and here's where I'm going to kind of put my crystal into position, add in an 11, and then I'm going to go ahead and get 5 Delicas in. 3, 4, and 5. Grab an 11-0 seed bead, and I'm going to go through then the bow bead along the other side. When I have my needle and thread coming out the bow bead on the other side, I want to put my crystal kind of back in there, push it down almost against the base, and that's going to catch that in there. From here, come down the side of the beads, and you can let go of your crystal if you want, or you can keep it in. It's obviously not going to stay there until you get the bottom portion in. Go ahead and go through the 11 Delica, Crystal, Delica, and then just like we did on the other side, while making sure not to get your stop bead kind of caught. Coming out there, I'm going to add one more Delica, then skip over the 11-0 seed bead, and go into the Delica, Crystal, Delica. Sometimes easier said than done when you want to separate out some beads. Through and down. There we go. And I'm going to set it back down, kind of put my bead back in where it needs to be. You can see there's so much extra thread up there. I want to tighten that up, kind of even push those BowTrio beads to the top and pull that extra thread so you don't have a ton of extra thread showing. From here, then coming out that bow bead, go ahead and put an 11-0 on, 5 Delicas, another 11-0, and then we're going to go through the bow bead on the opposite side. Once you go through the bow bead on the opposite side here, that's when it is going to start that the crystal is going to get stuck in the middle there. So you can see I'm kind of pushing the crystal down along the base, pulling those BowTrios up along the top, and pulling that crystal into place. Oh, and I forgot to go through the BowTrio there. So, of course, I came right out of the 11-0 and forgot to go through the BowTrio. So I get to actually take these all back off. You want to make sure you're coming out the BowTrio. And I'll keep this clip in here just so you can see everybody makes mistakes. You want to make sure that you're coming out the bottom of the BowTrio, basically. I'm getting my thread twisted here. I'll untwist my thread, and then I'll pick up back with you. Taking my thread and needle, it should be coming from the 11-0 out through the bow bead prior to putting on the seed beads and the Delicas. So now that I've got my seed beads coming out the correct place, going through the BowTrio first and then adding the 5 Delica beads with the 11 on either side, you're going to come out then the side of the bow bead. You can see that my thread stop or my thread there wants to get attached a little bit, kind of move it out of the way. At this point, it's actually in place here and you have that nice bezel created. What I'm going to do is take that 11-0 and kind of push it to the back of the design. Come up through the 11 and the crystal and through the 11. And then this time we're going to go through the Delica and then the 11 that's already there. Kind of pulling that down towards the front. Go through the 11, Delica, crystal, Delica, 11. And then to really secure kind of this crystal in there that it's not going to move, we're going to go through the BowTrio, through the 11-0 seed bead, and through the first Delica bead. Give a nice little tight yank, add an 11-0 seed bead, and we're going to do 2 stitches of peyote. So we're doing an 11-0, going through that middle 5th bead, add an 11-0, go through the 5th bead, and go through the 11, and then out through the BowTrio. And that just decorates the top there a little bit with peyote stitch. We're going to take our thread and needle down the side of the BowTrio. So just through all those beads here. And again, as we get to the side, I'll go through the 11-0 this time rather than the Delica, kind of pushing the Delica towards the back of the BowTrio. Go through then the Delica, crystal Delica 11. Give a nice tight yank. Go through the bow bead. Once you're out the bow bead then, we're going to tighten it up again with the 11-0 and the Delica, your needle coming out there. Once you're through the needle, or once you're through the Delica and the 11-0, add another 11-0 for this peyote stitch. Go through the 3rd of those 5 11-0 seed beads. Add another bead, go through the 5th of the 11-0s, as well as the 11-0 seed bead that's already there, and then out through the BowTrio. And there you have it. So at this point here, my crystal is stuck. You can see that it's sitting a little bit higher in the back, and that the bow beads are a little bit rounded towards the side of the Oz pendant. From now, what I'm going to do is go up through kind of the bow bead, and I'm going to track back through so I can add some crystals along the bottom here, as well as crystals along the top to get that nice bezel set in. Along the side then of the pendant, I was coming out the bottom here and I went through those seed beads along the end, because what I want to do is, after coming through the peyote stitch and coming out through the actual bow bead, I want to come out through the bow bead towards the crystal in the middle. So take your thread and needle, and I've already done this, go up through the 11, the Delica 11, Delica 11, Delica, crystal, Delica 11, and then come out through that interior. From here, I want you to add 1 crystal, 3 Delicas, 1 crystal, 3 Delicas, and then 1 more crystal. You're going to go through the BowTrio, going through from the center towards that outer edge. And that's just going to put those crystals right there along the bottom, creating my little bottom peak. From here, I'm actually going to take my bead stopper off and tie off that thread to the thread that's here waiting for it. Once I have this off, you can see usually with the thread, the bead stops, you can kind of just pull them out. Sometimes they're easier than others. I got my thread trapped in my design, so I'm going to pull that out first. There we go. Slide my bead off. Then I'm going to make sure to tie this bead thread off before going to the top, because all I have to do yet is go up the top of the side of the BowTrio, and then I'm going to add some beads along the top along with a wire guard to act as my bail. Give a nice tight yank and pull with this to make sure that not any extra thread is showing along that back of the design. I'm just going to let that hang out there until I get to the top of the piece done. So along the top now, I'm going to go back through the beads one more time. And I know it's right, how many times can we really go up the bead? Along the side here. Move that bead back. Going up here then, through the crystal, through the 11-0. And just like I did the other side, I'm progressing the whole way up till I can come out through the center of the bow bead. So I'm going to go down through that center of the bow bead and come out towards the crystal. Out towards the crystal then, what I get to do is add my little top to that crystal. The top to the crystal is going to be another one of my crystals. You can see here, we're going to do 4 of our Delicas, 1 11, 1 crystal, and then we're going to grab our wire guard or our wire protector. The wire guard is a horseshoe shaped metal bead that actually stops the thread from rubbing against any sort of jump ring or bail, or in this case, any sort of cording you may hang this on. We're going to go through and down the other side of the wire guard. Make sure that the thread stays in that wire guard, and then go through the crystal as well as the 11-0 seed bead. Give a nice little tight yank to make sure that you don't have any extra thread showing. Coming out that 11-0 seed bead, then go ahead and add 4 more beads. 1 more crystal, and into the BowTrio from the center of the crystal towards the exterior edge. Give a nice little tight yank, and there you have your nice top to your pendant. And again, this pendant is completely out of the realm of what I would normally do with those bright pinks, but it's kind of attractive and it's really captivating color-wise. Now all I have to do is actually go in and get rid of my thread. So once again, we're going to go through the beads. Instead of going through the beads, actually I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to go through the BowTrio on the exterior edge there. The thread's just going to hide right along the BowTrio then. Through the base of the BowTrio then, because you're not going to see any thread, out the BowTrio. Give a nice little tight yank there. Up through, and basically I just need to get rid of my thread. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through again. You won't see any of that extra thread. You can go through the seed beads too if you want. And I'm just going through here, taking some thread, and then I will create a little bit of a knot and kind of tie that off. So I tie off my extra little thread end there, sewing underneath a thread piece there. Sewing through the loop once and twice, because I have room to hide that knot, so I'll do it twice. Giving a nice tight yank and pull. And then all I have to do is take my threads up or my thread burner, scissors, whatever you prefer, and go ahead and actually trim down the excess of that thread. And that gives a nice kind of creative, fun way to use the BowTrios that's really out of the box to do this Oz pendant, getting in that look of that bezel set. You can see the whole crystal is actually exposed in the exterior of that, and it gives a fun way to wear this too. You can use a whole bunch of different crystals in this same idea, creating basically a netted bezel with some metal beads like the BowTrios. Thanks so much for joining me in making the Oz pendant. Remember to comment below and tell me how you enjoyed working out of the box using the BowTrios on that fun side edge. As well, what color do you use to make it? This helps the community grow and allows others to learn from you as well. Keep in mind you can always subscribe to this YouTube channel and we'll get regular updates when we do new and exciting videos for you that can make you a better beader and help you get more creative in the craft. As well, if you need any materials, below the video in the description and the little time date box there, you can hit the show more button and it'll give you links to all of the different materials used in this video, as well as the colors that were used in the design. Thank you so much for watching and enjoy your making of the Oz pendant.